what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I am doing the OMG This Song Tag. So this was a tag created by Kate's Book Date, and I will leave her original video down in the description for you guys. I personally have a big affinity for rock, metal, and all things emo and screamo music. If you have not been following my channel for that long, that might be new news to you. But yes, I may seem all sweet and endearing and like I would enjoy more pop or country music, but what surprises many people is that I can't stand that kind of music. I am definitely an emo fan for life. So the first question is My Jam, a song you must listen to every time it comes on, no matter how old or how many times you've listened to it. And then also pairing with that, a book you'll never get sick of. Probably the biggest emo kids staple of all time, and that is Welcome to the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance. It is the biggest emo kid song on the face of the earth. It is never going to die. It is one of those songs where once that G note hits at the very beginning, my heart just starts pumping and I get so excited because when I first listened to that album, actually, funny story, my mom had gotten it because she was really interested in the music itself. Like, she didn't listen to any of My Chemical Romance's music before or knew very little of it. We listened to the entire album. We loved how creepy it was and all that stuff, and so that was kind of my introduction to it. And so I knew Welcome to the Black Parade, I think, when I was like 8 years old. By the time I basically had gotten into like the emo stuff, I realized that I was not alone in loving that song. I thought that I was one of the only kids that knew it and really loved it, but unbeknownst to me, there was a whole community of kids that loved that music, that loved the song too. It's just one of those songs where I think no matter how old you get, you're always gonna find some kind of nostalgia in the song because it's just one of those really big staples for, you know, your former emo kids, and it's one song that I don't think I'm ever going to get enough of to listen to. As far as the book I will never get sick of, you guys are probably sick of me talking about it, but that is Beautiful Creatures by Kami Garcia and Margaret Stohl. This series has my heart and my soul and everything incorporated in my body because this was kind of a nostalgic thing for me, but I recently did a Beautiful Creatures reread of the entirety of the series from the spin-off novels and novellas in the main series. It's just one of those series where no matter how many times I think about it, I still get the same warm fuzzy feelings that I did after I first read it because I think that it was just so interesting. It was kind of a book that really got me invested in reading a lot when I was in high school because I'd always been a big reader, but I think that between middle school and high school I started to read a little less, and then when I read this in high school, it kind of like reignited my love for reading, and I just fell in love with the world. I fell in love with the characters and everything about it. So just one of those books where no matter how many times I talk about it, I don't care if it bores people to death, I will talk about this book because it has made such an impact on my life. Question 2 is Throwback, a song that reminds you of the cringiest time of your life, and pairing with that, a book that also reminds you of this time or just something you wouldn't like as much if you picked it up for the first time now. I don't know if it necessarily would be the cringiest time of my life, but there was a song that I remember listening to when I was really young that a guy had tried to use to get me to like him. So let me back this story up a little bit. So I'm in the 6th grade, okay? I'm 11 years old, and there was this kid that really liked me for some reason. I never spoke to him, but he was in a couple of my classes, and he, I guess, developed a crush on me. And we kind of had a thing for a little bit, but I wasn't really interested. I didn't know anything about relationships at that point, so I didn't even think of it as really as a relationship. But we kind of, like, I guess if you want to think of it, at 11 years old, flirting back and forth. And when I started getting interested in this other guy who was actually a good friend of mine, this kid basically wrote down the lyrics to this song. It was Fall For You by Secondhand Serenade. And at the time I had really liked this song, but he wrote the lyrics down for that song on this note and stuffed it in my locker. And since then I cannot listen to that song without feeling so cringy because, for one, I was 11. That's kind of creepy to do at 11 years old, is to write a note with song lyrics on there for a girl you don't really know. You don't know anything about relationships at any point. And just the whole time of 6th grade for me was just a cringy moment. So that song, whenever I think about it, just brings me back to that year, which is probably one of the worst years of my life for my personal development. And so I just can never have any good memories with the 6th grade. The first book that I can think of that I wouldn't like as much if I was to pick it up for the first time is actually Hush Hush by Becca Fitzpatrick. I think I read this towards the beginning of my booktube career, and I remember really liking it at first. I do like the idea of fallen angels and kind of some of the lore that comes with them, but I think that looking back on this, the kind of insta-love relationship that was involved in the story and some of the things that went on within it, especially the main character being like so annoying throughout most of it, was something that I think if I was to read it now would get much more annoyed with than if I was to have read it again when I was a little bit younger. So I will be talking about this book and a few others in a different video that I will be recording actually the same day that I record this, which will be books that I changed my mind on. So stay tuned for that because I have some more things on my mind about this one in that video. Question 3 is Replay, which is a recent song you have had on repeat right now, paired with a recent favorite book. So I would say it's not specifically a song that I have been listening to a lot. It's been more of a band. And I actually listened to this band for the first time several years ago. I had heard their music a lot, and recently I've had like a resurgence of loving their music, and that is the band Sumo Cyco. Sumo Cyco is kind of a, I would say, alternative rock band in a way because they play a lot on like the heavy thrash metal music, and I really got into them first when they just still had like their singles being popped out. They since have had 2 albums that have come out, but before their first album came out, they pushed out a lot of singles, and I remember first listening to them when those singles were coming out. For some reason, they kind of fell off the face of the earth for me. I stopped listening to them. I don't know exactly why. They just kind of moved out of my playlist for the longest time. Over the course of January, though, I got reinvested with their music, listened to all the singles they released before their first album, listened to the entirety of Lost in Psycho City and Opus Mar, which are their only 2 albums out right now. And I've really grown to appreciate, I think, their lyricism and their music choice and all that stuff. I just really have been invested in that. Like, I have their station on Pandora, like, playing all the time, which plays like Sumo Cyco and Hailstorm and a bunch of other like hard rock and alternative rock bands. But Sumo Cyco, I think, is one that I right now just can't get enough of listening to. I don't know exactly why it is, but just I can't not listen to them on a daily basis. So for my most recent favorite book, I'm gonna go with my last 5-star rating, which was The Inexplicable Logic of My Life by Benjamin Alir Sainz. I preferred this much more over Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe because I think The Inexplicable Logic of My Life plays a lot on the ideas of it being a true coming of age story because we have a main character who has suffered a lot of different things in his life, and it's the story of him really starting to understand what he wants in the world and kind of who he's becoming at the end of his high school career. His friends are starting to go through some major difficult things that are really influencing their life, and unfortunately for the main character, he's also losing his grandmother who was a huge influence in his life, and coupled with that, he has some very dark things that are involved in his life regarding the fact that he doesn't know much about his biological mother who passed away when he was young. He has no idea who his biological father is, and is starting to have a bit of a strained relationship with his adoptive gay father when a former flame of his father's moves back to town and starts to develop a relationship again with his father. There's a lot of things that are going on within the story that I think it just becomes a real true coming of age story because in the fact that every person will go through so many different things at once, and sometimes it's really hard to get through all of them and understand kind of your place in the world while dealing with all these things. And so I thought that the story itself really lent to that realism and really led to that, you know, indecisiveness and incomprehensibility of being able to understand what exactly is going on in your life. And I just found it to be really uplifting towards the end of it and had a really good message, I think, about growing up and having to face some things that you might not always be super comfortable with, but have to face in order to kind of move on in your life. Question 4 is Gets Me, which is, this song is me, and paired with a book that is me in book form. So the one song that I always associate with myself is one that I've listened to since I was 6 years old, and that was Numb by Linkin Park from their Meteora album. My parents, when I was really little, really liked getting into Linkin Park. They were obsessed with the Meteora album. My dad had listened to Hybrid Theory before and had really, really liked it. And this was really at the beginning of Linkin Park's real like rise to fame. And so when I was like 6, we had that album playing over and over and over in the car between school and dance and all these different things. So when I started listening to the song Numb off that album, for some reason, even at 6 years old, I really understood the song and felt like it was something I related to, which I didn't at all looking back on it. Like, I had no reason to think that I was being unheard and felt like I was invisible, because I wasn't. But for some reason, that song connected with me so much when I was a kid that now whenever I think about it, it brings me back to not only some nostalgia factors of listening to that album for the first time when I was really little, but it's always a song that I always associate with myself because of the fact that for some reason it always connected with me. I don't want to say that the idea of this being me in book form is anything bad, but I want to go with Fragile Like Us by Sarah Bernard. I've talked about the reason I like this book a lot, several different times on the channel, but for those of you who might be tuning in for the first time, Fragile Like Us focuses on a toxic friendship between two girls, and this book for me just really identified with me in a lot of ways, because when I was in high school and middle school, I developed a friendship with a girl that basically turned very toxic. She was very verbally abusive to me in a lot of ways, and then also kind of manipulated me in some ways. And I thought that at first when I read this, it was going to be too much for me to bring up kind of those old feelings, but if anything, the book really just validated a lot of the thoughts and feelings I had during that friendship, which was, you know, they still care about me no matter how many times they hurt me. They are still going to be my friend. I still care about them, all those things. Like, I just felt that this book really hit a lot of the points that I remember feeling when I was in that friendship, and I hadn't really found a book that had talked about that kind of a relationship before. And so I think that this is kind of more me in that sense, where you would learn a lot about me by reading this book and understanding the relationship between the main character and the friend that she has this really awful friendship with. Question 5 is what, which is weird, but I like it. And this is paired with a unique book that stuck out to you for whatever reason. I guess the only band that most people would kind of be like, what about, is Baby Metal, because I don't know a lick of Japanese, but I, for some reason, really like the musicality of Baby Metal. Like, it is incredible, the sound of J-pop being mixed with metal. It's just such an interesting combination that I just can't ever get enough of it. And I just really like it. I think I got exposed to them for the first time through a Fine Brothers video, and since then I've never looked back. I love their music. They're incredibly talented, and I just really like a lot of the songs and kind of what they all talk about, because each song has a different kind of story to it, and I just really enjoy it. So the book that stuck out to me for a specific reason was More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. And if you've been with me for at least several months now, maybe since about August or so, you would know that this is the book that really just kind of solidified my queerness, basically. I identified myself as pansexual in August of 2018, and it was all thanks to this book, because I had been talking about it and thinking about it for quite a while before I had read this book, but I didn't think that anyone really understood my questioning phase that I had gone through for many years in my life, where I was constantly questioning about if I was asexual, or if I was pan, or if I was bi. Like, I really had no idea what was going on, because not many people I felt like I could talk to about it. And I felt like the questioning phase of it made me feel like I wasn't queer at all, because I couldn't put something to myself. But More Happy Than Not really explored the idea of the questioning phase and really understanding that, you know, questioning things is okay about yourself, and the fact that it's a whole part of the process of finding out who you are is questioning things about yourself, about your sexuality, about your preferences in life. And I think it just really helped me understand that what I had gone through and had still been going through at that point in my life was completely valid. And it really just helped me understand that, you know what, I know what I am now. I know what it is that I've gone through, but this is at the point in my life where I'm ready to say what I am. And so I came out with my coming out video and really was happy with it. I got so many great comments on it from people. So if you would like to check out that video, I will leave it down in the description or in a card somewhere, maybe, I don't know. But it was a video that I think really helped me to get me where I am now, where I'm much more confident in myself. I'm much more happy with who I am. And a lot of that is due to this little book right here. Question 6 is Let's Go, which is the best pump up song for your workouts or just life, and paired with a book that inspired you. So I think one of the songs recently that's gotten me really pumped up whenever I listen to it is Pulse by Icon for Hire. This is a song where it pretty much is like a let's go song because the electronic music behind it is very kind of fast paced. It's kind of one of those things where like you want to go running to it. I think for that purpose and the lyrics kind of within the song, which is basically saying like, don't let people bring you down, get yourself up, and do you have, you know, an actual pulse to where you're gonna live your own life, or are you gonna let other people live it for you kind of thing. It's a song that really has always touched me and it made me understand that, you know, this is kind of what I need to do with my life. I need to live my life the way I want to, and the only way I'm going to do that is to stop having other people tell me what they think is best for me. See, I can't really pick a book that's inspired me because honestly, every book that I've read over the course of the last few years of my life has inspired me in some way, whether it's my writing ability, it's inspired me to make sure I avoid these things when I write, or it's important that I address these things when it comes to talking about books. Every book I've read has inspired me in some form or fashion, so I don't think I could ever really pick one specifically that inspires me more than the rest. Question 7 is Chill, which is a fave, chill, or relaxing song and paired with a book that you curl up with and read on a rainy day. I don't really have a lot of chill songs on my phone. A lot of them are either sad or angry. I think honestly any of my favorite books are books I would read on a rainy day. I, though, am not one to read very often on a rainy day because rainy days usually make me a little bit more tired, and so I would usually rather watch YouTube videos than just read a book. Question 8 is Addicting, which is a guilty pleasure song, one that's catchy and addicting but not a whole lot of substance, and this is paired with a guilty pleasure, trashy, fast, or light read. I don't really think I have any guilty pleasure songs. I mean, I will listen to the radio every now and then, and there are some songs on the radio I really like, but I wouldn't say any are especially a guilty pleasure song. I don't think that they're, you know, it's embarrassing for me to say that I listen to the radio and like some stuff on the radio. Blasphemy, I know, considering I'm an emo and metal kid, but like, I like music. I like music for music. There's no problem with that. As far as a book that is kind of more of a guilty pleasure, I don't think I have one for that either because I don't really think that there are books that I'm embarrassed to like for any reason. I don't particularly think that there's anything I read that's trashy, but then again, some of the books I read when I was younger, I don't think have the same connotations to them as they do now, so I have no idea. And the last question is Nostalgia, which is a throwback you look back on fondly, and then paired with a book you read forever ago but you look back on fondly or reminds you of a happy childhood time. So my throwback song that I think on fondly is probably just any of the music that I listen to now, because all the music I listen to is pretty much the same as what I listened to in high school, and while high school was kind of shitty for me in a lot of ways, the music aspect of it I think has been the biggest part that stuck with me and made me continuously happy. So it's kind of one of those things where like the music is more of the nostalgia of, you know, anything. Like I can remember when I first listened to this band or first listened to this song, and that's what makes me happy, but I can't really pick one that puts me back in that spot. And then as far as a book I read forever ago and I still think of fondly, honestly, the one that always comes to mind besides Beautiful Creatures is the Harry Potter series, because yes, it has its problems and it's definitely not as good as it was probably when it was first released in terms of the inclusivity and diversity aspects that we really look for now in contemporary, you know, reading. But Harry Potter has always been one of those series that I remember fondly reading because it was pretty much one of the first books I remember getting me very invested in reading, and then one of the first movie series I remember being so excited for. Like kids now are so excited for like the Marvel movies and all that stuff, but when Harry Potter first came out, I was so excited to watch it, and then every movie that came out, my parents and I went right to the movie theater as soon as it came out, and we always went and saw it. It was always this big thing. So Harry Potter has always just been one that I constantly love, and I'm never gonna not love, but I understand and recognize how problematic a lot of it is at this point in time. And I can discuss on that, and I can talk about that, but I still do have those nostalgic feelings for it that still have a special place in my heart, but I do know that it's not the best anymore. So there you guys go, those are all of the questions for the OMG This Song book tag. If you guys would like to do this yourselves, I will leave all the questions down in the description for you guys, and you can leave your answers here, or feel free to be tagged and make your own video. So anyway, if you guys did enjoy this video, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit the button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock, and I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!